What happens when a CEO walks into his own grocery store under the cover of night, not as the man in charge, but as a nameless worker, and discovers that behind the polished branding and corporate numbers lies a quiet cruelty? Yarden Price leaned against the cold concrete wall at the rear of store number 14, his breath shallow beneath the itchy synthetic beard that clung uncomfortably to his jaw. He tugged at the edge of his oversized hoodie, its navy cotton fabric soaked slightly with sweat. Baggy cargo pants hung awkwardly from his frame, the kind of uniform no one noticed. Exactly the point. He wasn't Yarden Price tonight. He was Dale, a man with a fabricated past and a blank present. Just another face among the graveyard shift. Despite owning all 18 stores in the regional chain, something about this location kept surfacing in his reports. Too many complaints, too many inconsistencies, inventory shortages that didn't add up, staff quitting abruptly, and worse, 2 internal audits that contradicted each other. One called it understaffed but functional. The other whispered of something darker. But Yarden had long stopped trusting second-hand words. After years in business, he'd learned a bitter truth. Numbers lied, people lied, but exhaustion didn't, pain didn't, and desperation couldn't fake itself for long. So, he came himself, disguised, anonymous, looking not for answers, but for the reality that only experience could give him. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed with fatigue, echoing off metal shelves and linoleum floors. Workers moved like ghosts, young, quiet, and invisible to the outside world. Most of them had never even heard of Yarden, let alone seen him. The company had changed hands nearly 6 years ago. To them, he was just Dale, another body to share the weight of a long night. His disguise was meticulous, a balding wig that dulled the sharpness of his age, thick glasses that dimmed his confidence, and a slight limp added to sell the illusion of wear and tear. He was just a man fading into the background. "Dale, aisle 7, now!" The bark came sharp, slicing through the silence. Yarden turned to see a wiry man, clipboard in hand and a permanent scowl tattooed across his face. Brad, the store manager, the kind of leader who measured success in volume and obedience, not well-being. "On it," Yarden replied calmly, pushing a heavy pallet past the swinging backroom doors. The store floor was lifeless. No music, no chatter. Just the sterile rhythm of boxes being sliced open and the dull scrape of items being shelved. It felt like a machine factory disguised as a grocery store. That's when he saw her. She was crouched low in aisle 3, her apron stained, her name tag hanging sideways. Lena, maybe 16 or 17 at most, with a quietness that felt forced, like someone who had learned to shrink herself just to survive the noise. Her hands trembled slightly as she lined up cans with surgical precision. He knelt beside her. "You okay?" he asked softly. She looked up, startled, then offered a tired smile. "Yeah, just tired." He hesitated. "How long you been on?" She checked a cheap wristwatch. "Since 10 this morning." Yarden's breath caught. That was nearly 10 hours ago. She brushed a loose strand of hair from her face. "I asked Brad if I could take a break, but he said we were short tonight, so I stayed. It's fine. I just grabbed a granola bar in the back." Yarden stood slowly, fighting the tight knot forming in his stomach. He tried to keep his voice even. "You didn't get a lunch?" She shrugged. "It's cool. I don't mind helping out." Helping. That word stung. There was a difference between teamwork and exploitation, but she didn't seem to know that line had been crossed. Before he could respond, Brad's voice pierced the silence again. "Lena, quit talking. You still got dairy to clean before you clock out." "Sorry," she called, her voice low, almost rehearsed. She stood stiffly, grabbing a mop from the corner. Yarden followed, watching her legs wobble slightly under the weight of fatigue. He turned to a tall worker stocking soda and asked quietly, "How many of you are on tonight?" "Just 5, the young man replied, not even looking up. "Supposed to be 8, 2 called out, One quit last week. Why'd they quit? The worker shrugged. Brad. He's a piece of work. Doesn't care if you're sick or dead on your feet. Just wants the shelves full. Yarden clenched his jaw. This wasn't why he had built this company. He hadn't clawed his way out of poverty and night shifts just to create a new version of the very machine he once escaped. He had bought this chain to protect the people like Lena, young, hungry, and brave. Then it happened. A loud crash echoed from the dairy aisle. He ran. Lena was on her knees, the mop lying in a puddle of dirty water. Her hands trembled violently as she tried to lift the bucket again. Brad arrived seconds later, already yelling. "What the hell, Lena? You can't even finish mopping?" "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice cracking. I feel dizzy." That was it. Yarden stepped in front of her, a storm rising behind his eyes. "She's been working 10 hours without a single break," he said, voice steady but sharp. "That's not tired. That's neglect. That's illegal." The words fell heavy between them, hanging in the air like the hum of the buzzing fluorescent lights. Brad's expression twisted into a sneer, suspicion rising in his narrowed eyes. "Who the hell are you?" Yarden's pulse pounded in his ears. His fists clenched instinctively, not out of fear, but out of the pure, simmering restraint he had to summon not to blow his cover. Not yet. There was more rot here, deeper than Lena's exhaustion. If he showed his hand too soon, the truth would scurry like rats back into the walls. He forced his voice steady. "Just someone who knows when a kid's being mistreated." Brad scoffed, a sharp exhale of arrogance. "Don't get soft, Dale. If she can't handle the shift, she doesn't belong here." That sentence burned. Yarden had once been that kid, overworked, overlooked, and told the same thing. If you're tired, you're weak. But this wasn't just a matter of toughness. It was about decency, humanity. And Brad had clearly long forgotten either. Still, Yarden knew he needed more than anger. He needed evidence, patterns, testimonies, not just for himself, but for the changes he would demand after tonight. He took a breath, swallowing down the fire. "I'll cover her cleaning shift," he said evenly. "She needs a break." Brad rolled his eyes and walked off with the impatient arrogance of someone who's never been held accountable. Yarden helped Lena to the break room, her steps unsteady. She held onto the doorframe as she entered. He grabbed a bottle of water from the mini-fridge and handed it to her gently. She took it with both hands, her fingers trembling slightly. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she blinked them away quickly, as if crying had become a kind of private rebellion she couldn't afford. "You didn't have to do that," she murmured, her voice small. "Yeah, I did," Yarden said, managing a faint smile before slipping out to mop the dairy aisle alone. As he pushed the mop across the cold tile, a quiet fury brewed inside him. Not the explosive kind, but the kind that stewed low, like hot coals waiting for oxygen. This wasn't just about one overworked girl. This was about a culture, a system that rewarded silence and punished compassion. And it was worse than he thought. When he returned to the break room nearly an hour later, Lena was still there, slouched on the bench, the half-empty water bottle cradled in her lap. Her hoodie sleeves had pushed up, revealing faint red pressure marks along her forearms, silent testaments to the weight she had carried. Yarden eased himself into a plastic chair across from her. His knees ached, a dull reminder of age and the hours spent crouching, lifting, pushing, but it was nothing compared to what she'd endured. "What's the policy here on breaks?" he asked, casual on the surface but sharp beneath. She looked confused for a moment. "Policy?" "Yeah, does Brad ever let people take 15? Step outside?" She gave a soft, tired laugh. "Only if you're one of his favorites, and even then, not always." He leaned forward slightly. "And who are his favorites?" Lena hesitated. Her eyes flicked toward the door. She'd been trained by fear. Yarden could see it. The way she measured risk before speaking. The way she bit her tongue for safety. "I don't want to get anyone in trouble," she said quietly. "You won't," he replied, his voice firm but kind. "But I need to know what kind of place this really is." She stared at the label on the water bottle, peeling it slowly. "He likes people who don't question him, guys who move fast and keep quiet. If you ask for anything, time, help, clarity, you're a problem." Yarden nodded, his heart heavy. "How long's that been going on?" "Since I started, and from what I hear, before that too." Before she could say more, the door creaked open. A tall, broad-shouldered man stepped in with a clipboard and Bluetooth headset wedged into his ear. He barely looked at them. "Brad wants frozen inventory done before 3. "We're behind," he said, tapping his pen against the clipboard. Yarden stood. "She's still recovering. I'll take frozen." The man raised an eyebrow. "And who are you again?" "Dale, new guy. Started tonight." With a dismissive grunt, he turned and left. Yarden turned back to Lena. "Stay, drink. When you feel up to it, help where you can, but no pushing it." She didn't answer, but her eyes said enough. Gratitude, relief, and something deeper. Hope. Back on the floor, the cold from the freezer section slapped him like a reminder. Not everyone had the luxury of warmth. 3 full pallets sat untouched. A lanky kid with a knit beanie and earbuds was slicing open boxes one by one, methodical but slow. "Need a hand?" Yarden asked. The kid jumped slightly, pulling out one earbud. "Sure, I'm Trevor." "Dale," Yarden replied, taking the box cutter Trevor offered. "We're supposed to get all this done in 2 hours," Trevor said. "But we're short again. Surprise, surprise." They worked in silence, the rhythm of tape tearing and plastic crinkling punctuated only by the low hum of the freezers. After about 20 minutes, Trevor spoke again. "You ever worked night shift before?" "Yeah, years ago. Not in groceries, though." Trevor nodded. "It's not bad, if you've got a decent manager. But this guy?" He shook his head. "Total power trip." Yarden's brow furrowed. "Brad?" "Yep. Doesn't lift a finger. Just walks around with his clipboard acting like a general. Last week he made this girl cry because she missed a bag of ice." Yarden paused mid-cut. "He made her cry?" "Right in front of customers. She quit that night." Yarden's jaw clenched again. The stories were lining up too perfectly. Different voices, same thread. Disrespect, pressure, abuse of power. By 2:30, the pallets were done. Yarden stepped out of the freezer, shaking off the chill. As he rounded the corner to the front, he spotted Brad, arms crossed, voice raised. "I don't care what your chart says," Brad snapped at a woman in a green produce apron. "We don't reduce anything unless I say." She held a tray of bruised peaches, clearly marked for markdown. "They'll spoil by morning," she said calmly. "It's wasteful." Brad scoffed. "I said no. That's final." She stood her ground. "I've been doing this 12 years. This is basic stock rotation." "Then maybe it's time you retire," Brad spat. "Let the younger ones take over." Yarden stepped forward. "She's right. That fruit's going bad. Better to sell it at a loss than throw it away." Brad turned slowly. "I don't recall asking you, Dale." "I wasn't offering a suggestion," Yarden replied coolly. "That's just common sense." A beat of silence. "You've been here 5 hours and already think you know how to run things?" Yarden stared back, unwavering. But I know what it looks like when someone's punished for doing the right thing." The woman blinked in surprise. Then a soft smile tugged at her lips. Brad turned and walked off, silent. "Thanks," she said, her voice low. "Name's Rosa." "Dale," Yarden replied. "And you were right. That was a solid call." She nodded and returned to produce. Yarden turned and headed back to the stockroom. The night was far from over. Inside, a man named Marcus stood hunched over the scheduling board. Older than most, wearing a faded red vest over a black t-shirt, there was a quiet steadiness to him, like a lighthouse in the storm. And Yarden was starting to realize, this place didn't need a better system. It needed a reckoning. "You moved through frozen fast," Marcus said, eyes still fixed on the scheduling board. Trevor helped, Yarden replied. He's sharp. Marcus gave a short nod. Yeah, doesn't say much, but the kid shows up and works hard. Yarden stepped closer, glancing at the whiteboard scrawled with dry erase ink and chaos. I noticed the schedule's paper thin. Any backup staff? Marcus shook his head with a tired breath. Not since they cut hours last month. Word was we weren't hitting targets. So now we run lean. Yarden frowned. And who decides that? Brad reports to the regional director, but everything on the floor? That's all him. He calls the shots day to day. Yarden studied the board more closely. 3 names were scratched out and replaced with question marks. Ghosts of employees who'd had enough. People just keep quitting. Sometimes mid-shift, Marcus said, voice low. Pay's fine, but it's not the money that breaks people, it's how we're treated. You go home drained, not from the lifting, but from feeling invisible. Yarden felt the truth land like a stone in his chest. You ever raise this with Brad? Marcus gave a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. I've been here 15 years. I've raised everything, staffing, broken coolers, safety issues. He shrugs. Says it's above his pay grade. Then nothing changes. Yarden's fists curled unconsciously. When's the last time the regional director visited? Marcus paused. Never met him. Just emails. The whole picture came into view. Brad wasn't just mismanaging. He was poisoning the soil, creating a culture that repelled anyone with dignity. And worse, those above him had either turned a blind eye or never cared enough to look. Yarden checked the time. Almost 3 a.m. He turned to Marcus, voice quiet. You've been here longer than anyone. If you could fix one thing, what would it be? Marcus didn't hesitate. Respect. People can handle heavy lifting, late nights, chaos. What breaks them is being spoken to like they don't matter. Yarden nodded slowly, the weight of those words etching deep into his mind. As he stepped back onto the floor, he spotted Lena near the registers, her body moving but her eyes distant, trapped somewhere between exhaustion and resignation. It was the look of someone who had stopped expecting kindness. That was enough. He walked toward the exit, pulled out his phone, and dialed. The night air was cool against his skin. Maya, it's me. I need you at store 14 by morning. Bring HR, bring security, and bring the termination paperwork. Inside, Brad was chuckling near the break room, completely unaware of the shift that was about to break over his world. By the time dawn pressed against the store's glass doors, casting a pale gray across the empty parking lot, Yarden had changed back into his real clothes. No more hoodie, no more disguise. The beard and glasses were folded into a canvas bag, now resting on the passenger seat of his black sedan parked discreetly near the loading dock. Inside, the store stirred with the hum of early prep, bread carts squeaking, coffee brewing, and a sleepy cashier logging into the register. It looked ordinary, normal, but beneath it, tension was coiled like a spring ready to snap. Yarden stood at the front in a black wool coat, coffee in hand, watching quietly as Brad emerged from the back, clipboard in hand, face etched with its usual boredom. Brad didn't recognize him, not in daylight, not until Maya walked in. She strode through the front doors, elegance wrapped in professionalism, gray blazer, crisp blouse, her posture purposeful. Flanked by the district HR manager and a plainclothes security officer, she walked with the weight of finality. Her heels echoed across the tile. Brad blinked, confused, stepping forward. Excuse me, can I help you? Yarden stepped beside Maya. Brad's face froze. Recognition flickered behind his eyes, fast and fumbling. Yarden took off his coat slowly. You can start by handing over your keys. Brad's mouth opened. Wait, you're Price, the founder. You've worked here for 18 months, Yarden said coolly, and never once bothered to read the headers on your company memos. I didn't realize. That much is obvious, Yarden cut in. He motioned toward the side hallway leading to the break room. Let's not do this in front of the crew. Brad hesitated, Then followed. Silent. Pale. The HR manager waited by the door, clipboard steady. Inside the break room, Maya leaned casually against the counter, arms crossed. Yarden faced Brad, voice calm, but unmistakably final. "I've spent the last 8 hours watching you. You let a 16-year-old girl work herself to the point of collapse. You dismissed a seasoned employee trying to prevent waste. You denied breaks, ran skeleton shifts, and punished anyone who dared to speak." Brad's face flushed. "Look, the store's under pressure. Labor budgets were slashed. I'm just trying to keep the lights on." Yarden stepped forward. "You made a teenage girl cry over a bag of ice. You told a woman with 12 years of experience to retire because she knew better than you." "I don't enjoy this," Brad snapped. "I get shipments late, ops breathing down my neck, 5 part-timers and a busted freezer. You think that's easy? Then you come to us," Yarden said, voice steady. "You raise the flag. You fight for your people. What you don't do is turn around and abuse them." Brad scoffed. "Half those kids wouldn't survive a real job. They need to toughen up." Yarden's eyes narrowed. His voice dropped. "And you need to leave. Now." Maya stepped forward and handed Brad a sealed envelope. "That's your formal termination. Your final pay will be processed by noon. Security will deactivate your access." Brad stared at the paper in his hand like it was in a language he didn't understand. "You're making a mistake," he muttered. Yarden didn't blink. "Number, I'm correcting one." Brad left wordlessly, escorted out the side employee exit. Yarden stood there for a moment in the quiet. The same break room where Lena had sat just hours ago. Her water bottle still sat on the table, half empty, untouched. He stepped back onto the floor. Marcus was sweeping near the bakery, his movement slow but steady. "Morning," Marcus said cautiously. "Morning," Yarden replied. "We'll need a quick huddle. Can you gather the overnight crew and any early shift workers?" Marcus nodded, no questions asked. Within 10 minutes, they were assembled near Register 4. Lena stood in the back, arms folded tight across her chest. Rosa leaned by the produce display, watchful. Trevor had his earbuds in one hand, his posture cautious. Yarden looked at them, worn faces, guarded eyes, and for the first time, they looked back at him with something that felt like curiosity. Maybe even trust. "I'm not here to give you a speech," Yarden began. "I came in last night undercover. I needed to know the truth about this store, and what I found was a group of people doing 3 jobs at once. People scared to speak up. People pushing themselves to collapse." Lena looked down, quiet. "That ends today. Brad's gone, effective immediately." There were no cheers, no claps, but something subtle changed in the room. A shared breath. A long sealed window cracked open just enough to let the stale air escape. The kind of silence that wasn't emptiness. It was release. Yarden stood tall in front of the night crew, his voice steady but not distant. "Here's what happens next. Marcus, you're the interim store lead until we find a permanent replacement. You've earned that trust." Marcus blinked. His hands fidgeted slightly around the clipboard. Thank you." Yarden turned to the rest of the crew, their faces still etched with exhaustion, but now tinged with curiosity. "To the rest of you, starting today, every shift will be scheduled with full coverage. No more overburdening the ones who show up. If someone calls out, we call for help, not guilt." Rosa lifted a hand, measured but firm. "We're still short 3 people. How are we handling that?" Yarden nodded. "We're opening 5 new part-time roles. It's already cleared with ops. Hiring starts tomorrow, and the night differential is going up, $2 extra per hour." That got a few looks. Subtle ones. The kind people give when hope stirs, but they're afraid to feel it too soon. Trevor leaned against a freezer cart, raised his voice. "Does that include retro pay for this week?" "It does," Yarden replied. "Payroll will process the difference." He let that settle in. A beat of quiet. "I'm not here to run this store for you," But I am here to make sure none of you are treated like robots. You showed up when it was hard. Now we're showing up for you." At the back of the group, Lena finally looked up. Her voice was soft but clear. "What about school schedules? Some of us have been waiting weeks to get ours adjusted." Yarden glanced to Maya, who gave a single nod. "They'll be honored," he said. "HR will reach out today to confirm your availability one by one. And if you're ever told again that basic accommodation is too much to ask, you come to us. No pushback, no retaliation, ever." Still, no applause. But something shifted. Shoulders eased, postures softened. Eye contact, where there had once been avoidance, returned. Yarden gave a final look around. "I can't fix what's already happened, but I can promise you it won't happen again." He stepped back, letting Marcus step forward to begin organizing the shifts. Maya opened her tablet to start onboarding. Rosa had already moved off toward produce, phone pressed to her ear, reconnecting with a vendor about the morning shipment. Trevor returned to Frozen, still quiet, but one earbud loose now, a sign. Yarden made his way to Lena, now standing near the coffee station. "I owe you," he said gently. "Not just for working hard, but for not hiding what's really been happening." She gave a tired smile. "I didn't think anyone would notice." "I did, and I'll make sure others do too." He handed her a small card. "This goes directly to me. No filters, no walls. If you're ever in a place where it feels like no one's listening again, use it." Her fingers curled around it like something fragile, like something sacred. Yarden stepped outside. The sun had finally pierced the clouds, gold bleeding over the roof lines of the store. It didn't feel warm yet, but it felt like morning. This wasn't over. Not even close. But it was beginning. 2 days later, he came back, not undercover, not pretending. He walked through the sliding doors just after 6 a.m. in a plain blue button-down, jeans, coffee in hand. No title on display, just a man showing up. Inside, the energy was quiet, but not dead. Just still, in a way that felt earned. Marcus stood near the service desk, scribbling notes beside the morning delivery log. When he saw Yarden, there was a hesitation, a pause between familiarity and hierarchy. "Marcus," Yarden said, extending a hand. "How's the stretch?" Marcus gripped it firmly. "We're moving, not perfect, but nobody's walked out. That's something." Yarden nodded. "It's a start." As the night crew clocked out, Rosa passed by, coat draped over her arm. "We're short 3 crates from citrus," she said. "Driver blamed the warehouse. I logged it, but you might want to follow up." "Thanks," Yarden said. "How's morale?" She gave a dry but honest reply. "Still tense. Nobody trusts changes this fast, but we've had more real conversations in 2 days than the last 6 months." "Good. Keep telling me the truth, even when it's uncomfortable." She nodded and walked out into the early light. Yarden walked the floor with Marcus, checking each department. In the deli, 2 employees prepped sandwiches for early orders. In the bakery, a lone worker rolled dough. Trevor was already in Frozen, halfway through inventory. This time, there were no earbuds, just a low jazz melody playing from a portable speaker, a rhythm of his own choosing. "I didn't think you'd come back," Trevor muttered. "You're not the only one," Yarden said. "But I don't disappear when it matters." Trevor nodded. "Feels different now, still tight, but people talk like they matter." "We're not done," Yarden said, "but we're on the path." In the break room, Maya sat with 2 employees going over new shift forms. Lena sat quietly at the end, notebook in front of her. Yarden approached after Maya finished. "Mind if I sit?" Lena nodded, eyes clearer now, but still cautious. "I didn't think you'd remember me," she said. "I'd have to work really hard to forget." She opened her notebook and slid it toward him. "I wrote something after that night. Didn't know who to give it to. Figured I'd throw it away." He read it. The handwriting was careful, but the words weren't. They were raw, honest, painful. She ended it with a question. "Is this what work is supposed to feel like?" Yarden closed the notebook. Number, it's not. I'm trying to believe that, she said. You don't have to believe it today, but I'll make sure you can believe it soon. She stood, slung on her apron, and turned back. I told my mom what happened. She thought I made it up. Not everyone believes stories like this, Yarden said. But they will. Later, near the floral section, he found Maya. Any blowback from Brad's termination? He asked. None, she replied. HR reviewed his file. Enough red flags to justify it even without your report. Staffing? 4 interviews today. 1 former employee already reapplied, left under Brad, wants back now that Marcus is running things. Give them a fair shot. Just then, a voice came from behind. Mr. Price? A woman approached, late 30s, green vest, ink-stained hands. Her name tag read Kira. I wasn't on shift the night everything happened, she said. But people are talking. I just wanted to say thank you for not just sending another email, for being here. Emails don't mop floors, he replied. She nodded, eyes serious. If you're checking other stores, number 6 is worse. 2 managers gone in 3 months. Night lead quit last week. Yarden's face tightened. Thank you, that helps. He turned to Maya. Put store 6 on the list. She held up her tablet. Already did. Outside, the morning had brightened. Trucks came and went. A vendor chatted with Rosa near the dock. Yarden watched quietly. No cameras, no speeches. Just people working. Not because they were scared, but because they finally felt seen. He pulled out his phone, opened the internal company app, and tapped a message to his leadership team. If you haven't visited your stores this month, go. Don't announce it. Don't supervise. Just walk the floor. Talk to the night crew. Listen more than you speak. He hit send. Then he stepped back inside. Because there was still work to be done. And this time, it was being done the right way. Not from behind a desk, but beside a shelf, a mop, a voice, a kid who finally went home. Because someone noticed she shouldn't have still been there. And now, she wouldn't be. Ever again.